The Lord be with you. This weekend it's the Sunday before Lent, and the custom is on the Sunday before Lent to have as the Gospel reading an account of the transfiguration of Jesus, that rather mysterious experience when he and some of his specially chosen friends climb a mountain, and in the worldview of the time, going up a mountain was always supposed to bring one somehow into the nearer presence of God. And on the mountaintop, in the presence, indeed, it seems, of some great Old Testament mountaineers, the disciples see an affirming, remarkable vision of who Jesus is. They perceive glory in him that goes beyond the obvious. And this vision of his glory, this transfiguration experience, when he comes down the mountain again, somehow is meant to give them strength to travel with him on the coming road to the cross. And so that's why we read it on the edge of Lent as we prepare to travel towards Calvary, realizing that it is a place of pain but also of glory. So St. Mark briefly describes the transfiguration thus: Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up to a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." He didn't know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, "This is my son, the beloved, listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. So it's a remarkable and affirming vision of divine glory, almost akin to what was witnessed by a number of people at the baptism of Jesus himself. I find it very hard to get my mind around the transfiguration, but sometimes I think it's a bit like falling in love. You know, when you experience falling in love and somehow your eyes are opened, you see in somebody else, as you hope they do in you, something that is far deeper than the obvious. The scales are removed, and you see in this other person something utterly wonderful that makes you want to entrust yourself to their care, relish their love, and even want to spend the rest of your life with them. I think the transfiguration is a bit like a moment when the disciples, in a whole new way, had scales removed from their eyes. They saw beyond the obvious, and they fell in love with Jesus and his requirement of them as never before. And in a way, it reminds me of a slogan we used in the diocese some years ago when we had a particular diocesan endeavour together during Holy Week, and we spoke of passion of Jesus, passion for Jesus. And the transfiguration opens the eyes of the disciples so that their passion for Jesus is in a whole way deepened and enriched. It's a falling in love moment. And of course, true love always brings cost as well as beauty. And no better day to talk about falling in love than this weekend, because this Sunday isn't only the Sunday before Lent, it's also St. Valentine's Day. So perhaps it's a day to think in the best sense about passion and about what it's like to fall in love with other people and indeed with God too. Some years ago I did a video clip for the diocese for St. Valentine's Day, when this day coincided with Ash Wednesday, and suggested that romantic couples would only be able that day to enjoy together a glass of water and some steamed fish. Well, we're not quite in Lent yet, but this year, given all the privations, the opportunity for romantic dinners may not be a whole lot better, but at least Lent hasn't quite arrived. But whatever you do this weekend, perhaps as we think of falling in love, renewing our experience and remembering our experience of falling in love, thinking of how the disciples felt new passion for Jesus as their eyes were opened beyond the obvious to all he offered and demanded of them. Perhaps as we think of all these things on the edge of Lent, we might think of the words of an old prayer, which was often indeed used on the Sunday before Lent, and it prayed in these words that we would be reminded that, quote, all our doings without love are nothing worth. And it was a kind of salutary reminder that however heroic your devotions and your disciplines are intended to be during Lent, unless they are carried out in an attitude of charity towards other people, absence of self-righteousness, and an expectation that you will transform your disciplines into practical acts of generous love, then they are nothing worth. So therefore, renewed in our experience of and commitment to the way of love, let us enter into this Lent, difficult, strange and unusual, although, like this Valentine weekend itself, it's going to be, but remembering that Lent carries us on a journey with the transfigured Christ to Good Friday, where we finally acclaim with Isaac Watts, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all.